My name is Nassine Saabs.
Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever happened to you that you couldn't explain? That made you feel sort of foolish when you tried to tell somebody about it? Well, if it has, you have plenty of company, as you'll soon see.
This was no pleasure palace. Rather, it was the first great dome built purely to make a point.
These gateways are portals. And these portals are what get you in and out of Earth's atmosphere. You don't just get into an airplane and fly from the Earth to the moon or from Mars to Earth. There is a covering over Earth, around Earth. It's a shield. In the Bible codes, it's called a partition. I don't know what science calls it. I don't know. I don't know what they call it. But there's portal ways. Think of them as long hallways up into the sky. And that's, when you access a portal, is how you can get access into Earth. Through the partition, the covering around Earth, and you get access into Earth. You have to get into one of these portal ways, one of these hallways. And these hallways are called gates. They're called gateways. And there are angels who guard over them. They're called watchmen. They're called gatekeepers. That's where that term watchman initially came from, because it was part of an angelic order in our angelic rank. They would watch over the gates, the access points to Earth. And so typically wherever these gates are, there's 6 around the world, but there are others that can be opened temporarily and shut. And so this is what Lucifer is trying to force with CERN, with the Large Hadron Collider. He's trying to force open portals, temporary portals, so that beings from other parts of our aerospace and space can get access into Earth. Now, if you're a fan of looking at nauseating photos all day from NASA, you will always see activity in front of the sun, around the sun. That's because there is a gateway in front of the sun. It is called the East Gate. And that is an access point to Earth from that East Gate. And so that's why there's always fighting up there. And the only reason you see it is because the sun is there and you can see it. Otherwise, every place else in the world can be pretty dark. That place always has the most activity. It's the most important gate. And so that's why you'll always see UFO activity. It's not always UFO activity. It's a lot of angel pods that are in the area, too. I remember when NASA posted a video once of a fight in front of the sun, and I saw one of the white angel pods, and I almost flipped. And I had saved that video, but it was on my other computer that crashed. Would love to find that again.
Now, it's not an egg, is it? It's a vessel? Is that what you call it?
He said, make sure you tell everyone it's a vessel. And I said, okay.
Okay, it's a vessel. Yeah. Okay, it's a vessel. And you were in there for like a couple of hours.
I was in it for 3 days.
For 3 days, wow. Wow, that's...
Actually, it was inspired by humanoids, alien, sex humanoid hybrid woman.
My favorite. Now you do something that women don't do.
And what we've been doing with the egg and the rebirth, it's meant to signify an artistic statement of birthing a new race, and it's a race with no prejudice, a race within the race of humanity.
Yeah.
That's really the statement in itself.
Well, that's great. That's really good. That's really good. Now, you are...
The Anunnaki are a big part of behind the Nazi program that was on Earth. You know, Hitler was always talking about the Aryan race. He was talking about the tall blondes. And the tall blondes at that time actually had a huge nest in Mount Shasta in Northern California. They were deep under that mountain, Mount Shasta. Had a huge city there, probably 20 million of the tall blondes. And they were overtaking the German government. And, you know, the rest is the whole war, the whole thing is such a lie. Everything about that war was just a distraction and lie. So many aspects to it. It was never about overtaking Russia and overtaking the world because, you know, they wouldn't have hightailed it to South America, Antarctica. If they wanted to win, they could have won. I mean, they had Foo Fighters, which were alien UFOs. They could have put weapons on them and shot the Americans and everybody else out of the sky. I mean, the whole thing, the whole aspect of it being a genuine war on their side was a lie. They used all that as a distraction so they could do other things in the background. They were testing chip-implanted soldiers. They were doing all this stuff, all these experiments. And, of course, you know, I mean, the Americans and everybody else thought there was actually a war going on. I don't know. It's not to them. You know, it's all coming to a head because I've talked to you about who the Ashtar Command is, and they're tied in with the whole tall blonde Mount Shasta people, race that was under there, the tall blondes, the Aryans, Hitler referred to them as. They are tied into them with Hawaii and Japan. They're all like a huge alliance. I told you the Japanese are tied in with the Ashtar Command, and they had superior technology, space technology. And they do, because I deal with Japanese more than anybody else, more than the Russians, more than the Americans. It's the Japanese spaceships that can penetrate and come through the portals to Earth and access our aerospace. They have superior space technology. That's where most of their money goes. Most of their stuff is. People think, oh, it's Honda and Samsung and you know, all this other stuff. It's actually space. They're actually much more involved in space than people could imagine. And because they're aligned with the aliens. They're aligned with Ashtar and the tall blondes and these alien races. That's also known as the White Dragon Society. They call themselves the White Dragons. And they're a faction against the New World Order, against the Nazi faction that America runs. Putin's also against the Nazi faction. They have their own faction. And everybody thinks Putin's coming to save the day in America. He's got his own faction. They're the bear faction. And in America, it's the lizard faction. It's the reptile faction, America and Europe. Russia's the bears. It's just a different faction, folks. Why do you think it's called the Russian bear? You know, and all you see in Star Wars is a big Chewbacca representing the bear race. You got Chewie, you know, really? There's a whole constellations of these bears. We call them Bigfoots in America. That's why they can't be caught and they can get away, because they're dimensional beings. When you see them on Earth, they're in their third dimensional state. But they're always associated with UFOs because they're from space. But they're just worker bees. And you know, the Big Dipper and Small Dipper, the Big Bear constellation, the Little Bear, whatever. That's all theirs. The constellations, the bears. They control Russia. They're the ones behind Russia. Oh, I was backtracking. I was talking about the Anunnaki. All of our Pentagon and our military bases try to turn people into transhumanists and the super soldiers and all that. That's pretty much a mixture of the Anunnaki, what they're doing to mankind. And so they come back and forth. They're back and forth. That's why they claim Earth is theirs. You know, they want people to believe that mankind was created out of test tubes, and they're our creators. And these are the parts of the lies that they're pushing, that they are our creators, to negate the whole fact that man was created in the Garden of Eden. They don't want you to believe in God. They don't want you to think the Garden of Eden never existed. They're always pulling you away from God, away from God. And even today, if a Chinese or Asian, or particularly in China, Christians are hunted down and killed daily there. Zero tolerance for anyone believing in God. That's how much Lilith hates him. And she'll kill any of her offspring that worship him. So that's why you have an atheist China that is so intent on killing Christians over there. And there's thousands of Chinese every year that die. Where's the outrage for that? Where is Chinese lives matter? I mean, they're killed just for believing in the Most High God, true Creator. But there's never any outrage about that. Well, Satanists that run the world, they revel in that kind of stuff. And all that's coming to America. Christians will be persecuted. They will be killed. They already are. You know, they sit in the background and just take them out like popcorn, and people don't even see it coming. They don't even realize what's going on. You know, they can give you a brain aneurysm. They can give you a heart attack. They can give you cancer. This stuff is assassination techniques that they use. This isn't Hollywood. Very rarely do they walk up to a parked car in a driveway and shoot you in the head unless you're a doctor who just came up with a cure from cancer. That's what, you know, they outright take them out because they want them to be, other doctors to be intimidated. They want other doctors to know that that was a personal murder, personal hit. But usually when they want to take somebody out they don't like, they get them with cancer like they did Chavez, or they get them in a plane crash, or heart attacks, brain aneurysms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They'll take the slower route to ensure the death, you know. Heart attacks aren't always successful for them. A lot of us have had heart attacks and we survived them. Actually quite bored having to deal with it in the hospital. Associated with any group. Back when Lucifer rebelled against heaven, and I talk about this in my book, Interview with the Devil, they had a Large Hadron Collider type thing in Nibiru, and they were pulling in all these different beings from other universes into ours, and they got trapped here. You know, once the rebellion started and Lucifer